Bonsoir à vous tous.
Good evening to all.
Nous continuons notre série de conférences.
We are continuing our series of lectures on the theme Know Thyself.
Aujourd'hui, nous allons parler
Today
de
we will
l'homme
speak
qui
about
contient en lui
man
l'univers.
that
Il
contains
est une
the whole
miniature de
universe.
l'univers.
He is a miniature of the whole
Aux Indes,
universe.
il y a des sages
In India, there are wise
probablement n'ont
men
rien à faire, alors ils s'amusent.
that might have nothing else to do,
Une
but
coquille de
so
noix
they
de Grenoble. Et
they
dans
take
cette
the
coquille,
shell of a
qui
nut,
ressemble à une
of a
hémisphère
walnut,
du cerveau,
and this
il
nut
108 verges
that
de
resembles
soie.
the hemisphere of a
Et
brain,
probablement qu'ils
they
connaissent la
are
structure
able
de notre
to
cerveau.
entwine
notre
in the
cerveau
nutshell 1,000
est une
meters of
miniature de
silk
galaxie.
thread.
Comme peut-être cette coquille de noix
Just as
est
our
aussi une
brain
miniature de notre
in
cerveau.
miniature.
Et même à travers la nature, à travers les fruits,
And even
à
through
travers les
nature,
légumes,
fruits
nous allons
and
découvrir de telles
vegetables,
merveilles
we will
qu'on sera
discover
bien
so
étonné
many
à quel
wonders
point tout se trouve en
that
nous,
we will be
à
very
quel point
astonished
tout
to
est
see
lié
to what point
et à quel
everything
point tout ne fait qu'un.
everything
Alors
does
imaginez la
one.
petite coquille
And so
d'une noix
imagine the
qui
little
peut
shell of a
contenir des
nut that
verges
can
et des verges
contain
de soie.
meters and meters of
Et quand
silk.
nous allons connaître
And when we will know
la matière de
matter,
notre cerveau,
the matter of
elle
our
est
brain,
assez soyeuse peut-être,
it may be a
elle est
little
assez
silky
lumineuse,
and
et
luminous,
nous serons bien étonnés
and so we will be
combien de verges
astonished
de cette matière
at how
soyeuse
many meters
peut
of
être
this
placée
silky matter
dans une coquille semblable
can be
à notre
placed
cerveau.
in a similar shell
Et
as our brain is.
puisque ces sages savent s'amuser si bien,
And since these
c'est que
wise men
peut-être,
know how to
on n'est
play
pas
so
certain,
well,
peut-être ils connaissent la structure
maybe
d'une galaxie.
they know the structure
Alors,
of a
imaginez
galaxy.
qu'à travers
And so imagine
ces correspondances,
that through these
à travers une
correspondences,
loi qui s'appelle la loi d'analogie,
through a
à
law that
travers
is
une
called
petite
the
chose,
law of an
nous allons
analogy,
connaître les plus grandes choses qui
through
existent
a
dans
small
l'univers.
thing close to us,
Présentement,
we will know
nous
the greatest
utilisons
things that
à peine-
exist
à
in the
peine
universe.
1/10 de notre
For the
cerveau.
moment, we are using barely
Alors, le
1/10 of our brain.
C'est à étudier,
But the rest is a subject of study.
le reste, c'est à apprendre.
The
Et
rest
ensuite,
is a matter
à
to
travers
learn
tout ce que nous
about.
possédons, à travers
And
tout
then,
ce que nous
through
avons
everything
en
that we
nous-mêmes,
possess,
nous
that we
allons
have
connaître
inside
l'univers
ourselves,
entier.
we will know the whole of the universe.
S'il y a une correspondance
If
entre
there is a
notre
correspondence
cerveau et
between
notre
our
galaxie,
brain and the galaxy,
c'est que dans l'univers,
it
il
is
y a
that in the
d'autres
universe there
organismes,
are
il y
other
a d'autres
organisms,
objets,
other
il y a
objects,
d'autres unités
and
qui
other
se trouvent
units
aussi en nous.
that also
exemple,
find their place in
Il y a le
ourselves.
soleil en nous.
For example, there
Il
is
est
the
même
sun
connu
in
par
ourselves.
certains ésotéristes, par les
Some
initiés, par les
esoterists,
maîtres. Le soleil est connu
some
comme un
masters
centre solaire
know it
qui s'appelle
as
le
a
plexus
solar
solaire,
center called
qui est
the
situé
solar plexus, which is found
au-dessus de l'estomac.
just
Dans ce
above the
plexus,
stomach.
il y a comme un petit moulin. Il y a comme un tourbillon
And there you can
qui nous
find
annonce beaucoup de choses,
a turning
mais nous ne
motion,
sommes pas capables peut-être toujours de les
and
comprendre.
that indicates
On dit,
many
on
things
a
for
mal au
us,
cœur.
but
En
sometimes we
réalité,
are
c'est
not
pas au
able
cœur
to
physique
understand
qu'on a
it.
mal. C'est qu'il y
Sometimes we
avait
say
un
we have a
sentiment
heartache,
qu'on a capté,
but it is not our
et ce
actual physical
sentiment
heart, but it is a feeling
qui
that
ne
we have
correspond pas
received,
au niveau,
and
au
this
degré,
feeling
au taux
does not
vibratoire de nos
correspond
sentiments. Ça
to
veut dire que c'était
a degree, a
quelque chose
vibration, or a frequency of
n'accordait
our
pas,
own
qui ne
feelings,
sonnait
meaning
pas,
it is something
qui
that was
n'allait pas
not
avec nos propres
synchronized
sentiments. Et dans ce
with
cas,
our
on dit,
own
oh, j'ai mal au
feelings,
cœur.
and in
Mais
this
ce mal au
situation
cœur,
we say,
il n'est
I
pas
have a
du tout physique.
heartache. But this heart is not at all physical. It is more etherical. And this happens through our solar plexus, which is like a whirlwind through which we can receive information of what is happening at our friend's house, perhaps with certain animals, and influences of the whole universe, because this solar plexus is like a doorway. Just as every building has a main door, and so this main door to come in and to go out is our solar plexus that looks like a sun with many whirlwinds that are very powerful, and we will speak about this later. And so we receive influences, and we also send out many things. Therefore, when we open or close doors, we have never thought about this same movement, the same action. We do it inside of ourselves every time, on a different plane and with more subtle matters. We close doors with our hands, but maybe on a more subtle level, we have hands that resemble perhaps little magical wands or antennae. And in the same way, these antennae can open and close doors. But we don't know this, and so anything can penetrate or leave our house. It is like a house where the landlord is not present or not aware, conscious, or sleeping. And due to this, anybody can come into that house. And this is the same thing that happens with us. You have surely seen the image of Jesus, where his heart is visible, and it is placed in the middle. It is not where the anatomical heart is placed, but this heart is found in the middle and surrounded by a flame. And so, in the same way, in initiatic science, it is called the initiatic heart. Initiatic meaning that which brings us inward. And so we possess a sun inside. We possess many other wonders that we will find the analogy for, and the correspondence. For example, every cell of our physical body, a cell that can be analyzed and seen, perhaps touched, they have the form of a pear, which also looks a little bit like a heart. And so thousands and thousands of these little cells that look like pears, or like a little basket with pears.
Nous allons parler un jour de la pomme. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a dans la pomme? Pourquoi elle était utilisée?
And so also with apples, we will speak about the correspondences with apples and why was it used in the Bible, just as a pear that represents the heart and the cell. If we cut a pear in half, we will find what looks like two ears. Both halves look like the two ears, and our ears correspond to this as well. Through our ears we can hear. And in the same way, these little cells can hear what is happening in our body when we work or do different things. And as these little physical cells resemble the ears, there is an expression that is known, we are all ears. And in fact, we are all ears through every single cell. And so we find this hearing inside of us. We have our lungs that look like ears. Our kidneys look like ears, as well as our feet look like two ears. And so when we say we are all ears, it means that with all of our attention, with all of ourselves, we are listening. And we will find other correspondences with fruits and vegetables, minerals, and precious stones. If we read the Apocalypse, the description that is given about the temple of the New Jerusalem, we will find amazing explanations that this New Jerusalem is our body. It is the temple of the Spirit, where the Spirit must live. When it is said, don't you know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God lives in you? This temple is precisely our body. And as we said, there is a main doorway that is found at the level of the solar plexus, and which was known as Jesus was presented with this door, through this initiatic heart. It is the heart that brings us towards the inside of ourselves and links us with everything else that exists. So there is the main door, but we have many other doors. And exactly as it was written in the Apocalypse, this New Jerusalem with all these doors and wonders, we also possess 12 doors. On our head we have 7 doors, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. 7 doors. And each door has a specific work that only the symbolism and work of each door is a whole universal science and on its own, a cosmic science. And then we have our belly button. We have 2 doors on our chest that are functional for women and for the moment are not functional in man. And then 2 other doors below, which you know of. And so these 5 doors, plus the 7 doors on our head, we have 12 altogether. And why 12? It corresponds to the 12 signs of the zodiac and many correspondences that are in numbers of 12. We will speak about our glands, which on another plane have an etherical correspondence called chakras. These chakras are also whirling energies that are found on ourselves, and we will study these eventually. And they are like centrals of energy that are found on our spinal cord. And for anything that we have to do, we use the energy of these chakras. Chakra means wheel in Sanskrit, meaning something that is turning. A wheel can function very slowly or can turn very quickly. If you imagine a ventilator, if you plug it to a certain speed, we can still see how many wings it has. But when we put it on a higher speed, then we just see a whirlwind, a circle. And in the same way, all along our spinal cord, there are 7 main wheels, and we have secondary wheels also. These 7 chakras link us to certain planets, to 7 solar systems that influence us in a continuous way.
Alors nous recevons les énergies non seulement de notre soleil mais des autres à travers nos propres centres énergétiques.
So we receive the energies not only from the sun, but other suns through our energetical centers. And we are linked to these different power plants on a cosmical level. But we will look at this later. So only through these small correspondences that sometimes we don't recognize or they have not been taught to us, we will discover that there are so many fabulous things that surround us and that we can nourish ourselves through this without ceasing. So one day we will speak about a universal structure that resembles a tree, which is called the tree of life. And man on this tree of life has his place, because on a tree there are many parts. As you know, there are leaves and fruits, flowers, branches, the trunk, and roots. And in the same way, in ourselves, we have things that correspond to these different parts of the tree. And so the leaves, to what do they correspond? As they fall every autumn, and there is a part of ourselves that goes away after one cycle. There are also roots in ourselves that are much more stable and durable, because without roots a tree cannot exist. There are fruits inside of us as well. And through everything that we do, that we produce, we can also produce a fruit, as the tree produces fruits. And so through this subject of knowing thyself, knowing ourselves, gradually and little by little we will discover the universe, even without going too far or traveling too far. But through this knowledge of ourself, we will discover the universe, because everything is inside of us in miniature. And it is called, through different sciences, it is called the microcosm. In the Bible, it is mentioned that there are 7 spirits in the front of the throne. And these 7 spirits before the throne are found in ourselves through these 7 chakras. And so where is the throne in ourselves? Everything that has been described in the Bible, the Holy Scriptures, ancient sciences, everything is found in ourselves. And so these 7 spirits do exist on a certain plane, and on another plane inside of us, through the chakras, they exist as a correspondence. And also the biblical actors or the biblical characters also do exist in ourselves symbolically, as the figure of Mary or Jesus and others as well. So everything that we are speaking about can be, of course, presented from a physical perspective. We can discern and analyze and see on this physical level. It is tangible and visible. And above this level, man is also made up of other levels that are not yet perceptible or visible. Imagine a mother who feels something, as we said before, in her heart, but through this expression, through her solar plexus, she receives a message, something that came in her, and she is certain she will feel that her child is in danger, or that her child is crying or is hungry. And nobody in the world can convince her that it is different or false. She will be certain of what she is feeling and that the message that she has inside is so. But what is it that has come into her? There is no possibility of measuring it or recording it, an apparatus that can measure it. But as soon as she comes home, or later if she learns about what happens if her child was far away, she will check if her message was true. And so she received a wavelength or an energy. But how do we detect this or measure and read it? And so we think, oh, it is sentimental or it's on the emotional level. She caught the desire or the need of her child. And so on the level of feelings, just as on the physical plane, we work with certain matters. Imagine a young man in love. He sees his beloved, and something inside of him happens. His circulation becomes quick, his blood flows. You can see him blush, change in color. And it is so fast that there is no possibility of mastering this or controlling what is happening inside of him. And so on the physical level, he's maybe not even moving. But just the fact that he saw from far away his beloved, all of these changes happen, and the effects are tangible and physical. But seeing her from very far, no one touched him. Nothing happened on the physical level, but it is only through this distant connection. And so we will explain this as being on the emotional plane or the feelings, but we are working with these matters, or even when we do not see the one that we love or that we hate. These feelings can make us move or push us to accomplish gestures and actions. And so there is such a big turbulence that is happening inside of us without touching these people that awaken emotions in us. But they do produce repercussions inwardly. And many people say sometimes these emotions were stronger than myself, and so we cannot control them. This is very true, but we can work with these emotions and direct them as love or hate or compassion. We can orient them very differently. And we know a little bit today that it can be positive or negative. But very soon, we may even have apparatus to measure, to see, and control to study this matter with which we are working on the emotional planes. And we call this level, this plane, the astral plane, because it is a level of light with beautiful colors. Astra is light, is the symbol of a light, and on this plane, everything is in light and in colors. And so the vibrations, being light, these vibrations are a little slow. Through these frequencies that we receive, there is a work that is being done from our first breath until our last expiration. How is it that a newborn can detect if it is his mother or not his mother? If it is a stranger that does not vibrate at the same level or the same way that his mother, the baby will start crying. Even a few hours old, this baby already is working with these matters that are still mainly unknown. You may be at home, comfortable, but all of a sudden there is a thought that crosses your mind. You may think about your childhood friend, and you have the impression that something is happening. And in your thoughts you may have some images that can be beautiful and happy, or images of a different category. But you are positive that something is going on with this friend. If these thoughts are beautiful, maybe this friend is living something happy. Or on the other hand, it may be something troublesome. And then in a few moments later, you learn the news or you receive news through a phone call or something about this friend. And so this is a mental image, which is extremely lively. It is very quick and fast. And although this friend may be on the other side of the earth, you are still able to catch his thoughts. There are many experiments that are being made presently in this area. There are 2 American women who are researching this in Russia. And so many studies are being made on the power of thought to prove scientifically that we are working with yet a different type of matter on a mental plane. And so sometimes it may represent a part of our mental plane can be represented by a precise image, by a precise thought to which we can put words. But another side of our mental plane is more abstract, and this thought is more like a symbol or a seed. And in the seed, we can find already all the images of a future tree, all of its sap, everything that will happen on the level of its roots, and what kind of fruits they will have. But as we are looking only at this seed, we don't see much, because it is only a symbol, like a resumed image. A tiny seed that contains the big picture. And when we think of trees that can live thousands of years, imagine its seed that contained all of that life in it. And so, in the same way, we also can have thoughts that are like these seeds. For example, some of these thoughts are like notes when you see them written down. For a musician, you can imagine just one note. For many people, it doesn't mean anything. But for a musician, it is a potential of a lifetime. For example, Beethoven, he had a maid, and this maid sang all the time. And you must know that at the end of his life, Beethoven became deaf. And perhaps because of this, his maid had to speak more loudly. She was always very happy, and she was very inspiring to Beethoven. And so one morning, something happened, and she started laughing and laughing in such a way that Beethoven, listening to this vibration, that sounded like ha 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 ha, it gave him the idea to write a beautiful symphony. And so imagine that these messages are passed on and transmitted by notes, by musical notes. Imagine a Chinese person, an English and a Russian. You put them together, they cannot comprehend each other. But if you play for them a certain piece of music, and as they listen to this music, if we could videotape what is happening inside of their thoughts or feelings while listening to this music, it would probably be very similar. And so, thanks to these notes that are the analogy of these seeds, as these seeds are a universal language that are beyond language. And so this music or these symbols will speak to them, and they will be able to understand the same things. And so on the level of our thoughts, we are able to analyze, to comprehend precise images, but also abstract images that contain a whole world through these seeds or through these thoughts like seeds. Imagine two doctors from two different countries. An Italian and a French doctor, they can comprehend each other because their experiments have been written in Latin. For mathematics, it is the same thing. It is a symbolic language that can unite two different mathematicians from opposite sides of the world. But they can understand the same things, although they do not speak the same language. But thanks to this abstract side of our thoughts that is expressed through numbers or notes or other symbols, or Latin, which is a bit more symbolic today, and even other languages or symbols that we may not know of today. And so the thought accomplishes constant work,
Si nous regardons par exemple deux pensées,
but we are not often aware of
nous
it
allons prendre
and
une
conscious.
pensée, eh bien, j'ai besoin d'acheter le fromage
Take
gras.
two different
Vous savez
thoughts.
très bien que ce n'est pas
One
une pensée
which
qui
may
va
be,
survivre des siècles,
I
des
need
siècles et
to
des
buy
siècles,
some
et qui va
cheese.
apporter à l'humanité
This is
une découverte.
not
C'est une
necessarily a
pensée
thought that will
image,
last
très ordinaire,
centuries
très
and centuries
quotidienne,
and help
qui est
other
là,
geniuses
que
make
nous utilisons,
discoveries.
mais qui
It
n'a
is a
pas une
very
valeur
concrete
d'une pensée,
and
par
basic
exemple, ce qu'on a
thought
choisi, nous, connais-toi toi-même, aimez-vous les uns
which
les autres,
lasts a
etc.
few minutes or
Alors,
hours. It doesn't have the same value as a different thought as the subject which we are working on, to know thyself. So thoughts have different values, and we can start to classify and place on specific degrees these different thoughts according to their value. And so the matter of the thought, I need to buy cheese, will not be the same as another thought which will survive for centuries, such as at the beginning there was light, or at the beginning there was the Word. And still today, we may not have fully understood its meaning, and it will last many centuries to come, and we will discover where this is happening inside of us. And so when we speak, when we say, at the beginning there was the verb, the word, it has a place in ourselves as well, and we will work on this later. And some other thoughts from the past, thoughts have died or passed away. Just as in the mineral kingdom there are ordinary stones, but there are precious stones. In our thoughts it is the same. For human beings it is the same. There are different categories in everything. And today we are just starting, perhaps for the first time, that even in our thoughts we use different matters that can be compared to the work of weaving. Imagine someone weaving. They can be weaving a very coarse thread, and another that is weaving silk, something very precious that is used more slowly. And we can learn how to use these matters, how to weave and compose thoughts that may last for centuries. Apparently, since Socrates, not one new thought has appeared on earth. And so perhaps we have not been weaving anything. We have always been re-saying or using these past materials on the thought level without creating something new. So we are using all these materials on different levels 24 hours a day, but we are not conscious of it. So now let us take our bones in our body. Every single bone has a name, a structure, a shape, and this is a system in our body. But we have another system, the blood, the circulatory system. It brings vitality, it's much faster and much more lively. Above this system, we have another system, which is the respiratory system. It is even more subtle and works with a different matter that is more subtle than liquid. And so we have solid, liquid, and gaseous,
ou le gazeux ou aérien, si on veut. Et quand nous
airy
regardons
if
les
you
éléments,
prefer. And as we
il y a
look at the
vide et
elements,
solide.
there
Il y a la
are
terre, il
there
y
is
a des
solid,
liquides,
which is
qui est
earth,
l'eau,
liquid,
il y
which
a
is
des
water,
gazeux, qui est l'air,
gaseous
et
being
le
air,
quatrième élément
and the
qui est connu
fourth
chez nous,
element that
c'est
is
le
known
feu.
to us is
Et où est-ce
fire.
qu'il se trouve ce feu en
And
nous?
where is this fire
Bien, on va
inside
se
of
dire,
us? In
c'est
which
la chaleur.
system? We
C'est
will
vrai,
say,
c'est la
oh, it
chaleur.
is heat.
Mais cette chaleur s'exprime à travers un système.
But this
Cette
heat
chaleur peut
expresses
se
itself
transmettre.
through a
Vous
system. It can
rencontrez
be
quelqu'un,
transmitted.
et d'ailleurs on le dit, oh,
When
il
you
est
meet
très chaleureux.
someone,
Et vous rencontrez
some
quelqu'un
people will
d'autre,
say, oh, they're very
et vous
warm,
dites,
kind-hearted.
oh, qu'il
Or
est
you
froid.
meet other
On dit
people
même qu'il a le
and
cœur
we may
froid,
say of those,
qui est un
oh, they are
non-sens
cold.
dans le sens physique, parce qu'on ne peut pas avoir
Or
le cœur froid.
we meet
C'est
an
seulement
ice queen.
celui qui meurt qui a le cœur froid.
But it is
Alors, où se
only
trouve cette
a
chaleur
dead
qu'on
person
cherche
who
et
has
qu'on
a
dit
cold
qu'il
heart, technically
est chaleureux
speaking.
et que son cœur n'est pas froid.
And so
Donc c'est sur un autre plan.
it is on a different level that
Cet élément
we
feu
express that
s'exprime en nous
this
à
fire
travers le
element
système nerveux.
inside of
Alors,
us,
il y a le
which
système
is
osseux pour la
expressed
terre,
through
il y a le
the
système
nervous
sanguin pour
system.
l'eau, il y a le système
So there is the
respiratoire
bone system
pour
for
l'air,
earth,
et
the
il y a
circulatory
le
system
système
for water,
nerveux
there is the
pour le feu.
respiratory system for
On
the
dit d'ailleurs
air,
de quelqu'un
and the
qu'il est
nervous
feu.
system
Tout feu,
for
eh bien,
fire.
c'est que
We may
son-
say of
ce
some
réseau
people, they
extraordinaire
are
qui travaille
all
avec la chaleur
fire.
intérieure, ce
In
réseau
French,
est
tout
en
feu,
ordre, ce réseau
meaning
est
someone who is
très,
very
très
tonic and very energetical, very nervous and ready for action.
peut manifester cette chaleur qu'elle devienne même tangible et visible.
And so we can manifest
Mais
this
en
heat
dehors
and
de
we can
ces
even
systèmes
feel it.
que la médecine, que la science,
But beyond these systems that medicine and science and anatomy knows of today,
nous avons beaucoup d'autres systèmes qui ne sont pas
we
encore
have
connus.
other systems that are not yet known.
On va apprendre justement
For
bientôt
example,
ce système des
we
chakras
will learn
Ce
about
système
this
éthérique
system of
qui
chakras,
nourrit l'homme
which is
au
an
niveau
etherical system
la
that
vitalité,
nourishes the
au
human
niveau
being
des énergies
on the
qui
level
nous donnent
of
la santé, qui
his
nous donnent la
vitality,
vigueur,
the
qui nous
energies
mènent à
that give
beaucoup
us
d'autres choses.
health and
Alors, sur ce
vigor
plan,
and many other
l'homme
things. And
travaille
on this plane, man
un
works
autre réseau, avec un autre
with a
système
different network
qui est
and
le
système,
système
which
des
is
chakras,
the
le
system
système
of
éthérique.
chakras, the etherical
Mais
body.
au-dessus de ce système éthérique,
And
nous
above
avons
this
encore
etherical
d'autres
system,
Vous avez
we
sûrement
have
entendu
yet
parler
more
de
systems.
l'aura.
Perhaps you have
D'ailleurs,
heard
la
of
science
the
aujourd'hui
aura.
l'a prouvé déjà. Il y a un
Science
couple
today is starting to prove
qui
this.
a inventé
There is
un appareil
a couple
pour
of
photographier
Russians
cette
who have
vitalité
invented
qui se
an
trouve autour, par
apparatus
exemple, des feuilles,
to
des plantes,
take a photograph
des animaux,
of
et
this
même des
vitality that
humains
is found
autour d'un
around
doigt.
plants
Alors, elle peut
or
photographier
animals
déjà
and even
le
around
côté
human
éthérique,
beings.
le côté
So they are able to
subtil,
photograph
le côté aurique.
this
L'image que
etherical
vous
plane
voyez,
or the
le corps
auric
physique, ce sont les
plane, the
contours
light
noirs,
that is diffused
et
by a
tout
body.
autour de ces contours se trouvent
So we have our physical body with its physical
qui
contour.
sont en violet, ceux qui possèdent la couleur. Ces petites lignes violettes représentent notre fluide éthérique qui
And so
entoure le corps
around the
et qui
body
a
we
une
have these
certaine épaisseur.
little
Et
violet
ce fluide
rays
éthérique
that are
forme tout un corps car il nous pénètre.
that
Il
are
nous-
beyond our
il nous
body.
transperce et voilà, nous sommes entourés d'un
And so
double
we are
qui est
surrounded
notre
by
force vitale,
this
qui est
double
ce côté,
body like
ce
a suit,
système éthérique
and it is
Ensuite,
this
vous voyez
etherical
un œuf
system.
qui nous entoure.
Then
Cet œuf,
you see
le
like an
verre,
egg
il
which
représente
surrounds
notre
us.
corps émotionnel,
This
notre
represents
corps astral ou sentimental,
our
et
emotional
c'est tout
body,
un réseau
the astral
qui
body,
nourrit,
which is linked to
qui
our
envoie,
feelings,
qui
emotions,
capte,
and it is
qui
a
capte
network
des
that
énergies au niveau des
receives
émotions,
and
au niveau des
emits
sentiments,
energies on the level of feelings and emotions. And throughout our life, it has this form of an egg because it is not yet as formed as our etherical body is. And then you will see the red contours that are above us. And this is precisely the matter of concrete and precise thought form. It is expressed always by an image. But man today is not yet very familiar with this matter, does not yet always know how to use it, how to direct it. He may be using it, but most of the time unconsciously. So we will speak about how to use our thoughts, how to work with our thoughts, and we will speak some more about this matter and how we can use our thoughts, help others, and do wonders with our thoughts. And then you see gold dots. And these are the little seeds that are abstract, of which we have spoken of before. These are little parts through which we can connect to a lot of potential. So these are like the little seeds that contain a potential of something big. So these are seed thoughts or symbol, the thoughts in the form of symbols. And so we, just like we spoke about the tree, but we are, as a human being, as a human body, we are also a tree, but upside down, as our hair are like the roots of this tree. And beyond these systems, there is another one, like these yellow golden rays. They permit us to use and receive a higher matter, which is more subtle than the mental matter. This is called the Buddhic matter. For example, this is what saints have used. It is linked to an infinite love. They used a matter that ordinary people do not use yet. If you take the example of a saint of our lifetime, we think about Mother Teresa. And so she has a very respectful age. This little woman, where does she draw the energy to accomplish everything that she does? How does she heal so many people? And so it is precisely from this higher level of love, Buddhic meaning pure love, and so on this level, the Buddhic level, it can only be pure love, pure reason that are united together. They don't have two polarities like in our thought level and emotional level, where we have good thoughts, bad thoughts, or good feelings, bad feelings, or negative, let's say. On these higher levels of the Buddhic body and level, this is a matter that is creative and that can enable us, when we have access to it, to accomplish beautiful things for all of humanity. And so imagine what subtle emotions, feelings, also what type of thoughts they may have had, to have access to this higher love matter so as to accomplish what they have accomplished as the saints of humanity. And they are examples for us because we all have access to these higher levels of energies which can enable us to become creators and to attain immortality. When we spoke about the age of Aquarius, humanity will work on, during this period and this age, will work on becoming immortal, how to plug ourselves to these energies that are around us, accessible for everybody, but we still don't know yet how to come about it and how to use it. It's as if you imagine someone that is living in a cave and they never saw the sun. What is he left with? It is simple. It would just be to come out of his cave because the sun is there anyways. And so all of humanity is comparable to this cave person because we have not come out yet of our animal instinctual world. We don't know what to do. We don't even know everything that exists around us. Our consciousness is not yet open and wide enough to understand things that are accessible to us, which has been prepared since a long time for us all. Man, therefore, works on many levels, but without being conscious of it. And beyond everything that we have said, man produces like a synthesis of what each and everyone produces on their astral and emotional level, on their thought level, and the sum of this produces movements of light, of energies, which is called today the aura. And so these colors in our aura can change according to the quality of our actions, feelings, and thoughts. When we are very angry, it produces shades of red, but like dirty red, very ugly red shades. And if someone walks by us at that moment, we dirty the person that is coming close, that is going by us. And if we are near someone with all of our anger, even if we try to hold it in, everyone will notice anyways, because it is written in our aura. And other people may also feel it. In medicine, there are apparatus that do record the heartbeat or the beat of the brain and different parts of our body. And so soon we will also have apparatus to record the changes that are happening in our aura. And so in conclusion, when we go in a church, for example, there are many beautiful things that surround us. Beings, we can attract angels, if you will. If our prayer at that moment is very sincere, we may become friends with these beings that are present in these places. And we may attract these friendships for them to accompany us in the rest of the day and of our life. And so through this aura, through this auric system, man may contact and be in contact with all of the universe. As a human being, we represent one cell, taking part in a much greater system of the universe. As a person, as a human being, so we have all these systems, as the universe has all these systems. We hold the universe in ourselves. There is not one fly, one insect, or the smallest creature that exists outside which is not present inside of us. You may say, oh, I wonder how many flies I have inside of me. Flies are found on the emotional level. Emotions that are not very beautiful and produce dirt. These are flies inside of us. And so these correspondences are endless and beautiful that prove to us that man is a universe. And so I thank you for your patience. And next week we will go on and continue with other things, which will be the different levels of human consciousness. We will speak about the unconscious, the subconscious, conscious, and superconsciousness, and how these different levels are placed inside of us, to what they correspond, where we find them in nature, and how we can use them to know ourselves better.
Ensuite, nous parlerons de beaucoup d'autres choses, mais on va commencer d'abord par la conscience.
And so we will start with consciousness, because it is through it that we can know ourselves and that we are able to know everything else. It is an amazing tool that we use more or less well with an exact or less exact notion. And so to be more aware of it, we will speak of it next time.